the Jake Giffin Podcast.
Sean McManus, he is a physical fitness master, a guy who is absolutely missioned by strengthening Christian men and making sure that we are not walking around in soft-soled shoes and getting manicures and pedicures. I assume. So we have the strength of Sean McManus today. Sean, welcome to the Jake Giffin Podcast, sir. How are you?
Excuse the interruption. I know I hate doing this too, but most people don't leave a comment, and the algorithm overlords really need that to prove my worth in human history, I suppose. And so if you would help me do that, that would be great. Enjoy this episode of Sean McManus. He's going to teach us about our personal leadership and physical stewardship and regaining masculinity. And if you like it, please subscribe, but leave a comment. Till next time. Thanks.
I'm great, Jake. Thank you for having me, man. Thank you for allowing me to be here and speak to your audience. I'm looking forward to today.
Dude, you are an absolute savage, dude. I'm looking at, your Instagram. I'm listening to the podcast that you're doing. You're talking, and we connected, I think, probably a couple months ago now, which was our akin spirit towards, strengthening Christian men. And you did a recent post about soft men raise softer sons, and everybody should go follow you on Instagram. You have a lot of stuff you're putting up there regarding the steps and how to lose fat, all these things, right? But what did you mean? What was going through your mind when you said soft men raise softer sons?
Yeah, man. So obviously with our kiddos, they follow what we do. They follow our example. It's up to us as their dads and as, the men in their lives to be that example for them. And if we're coming off as an example of, passivity and as an example of quote unquote, nice guy syndrome and, however you want to put it, they're looking at that and that's their example of men. And that's their example of what they feel like they're going to have to do because that's the standard that we've set for ourselves. So that in turn is going to be the standard that they set for themselves.
Mm. So those, in the formative years, let's say between 0 and 7 years old or something, what is your advice to men who are having their first son right now? How to behave, how to handle themselves between 0 and 7 years old?
Man, I'm in that bubble right now. My oldest is almost 5. So I'm right there. I'm right there now.
Formative years, man.
It is, man. And so my advice first and foremost would be it always has to start with the way that you lead yourself. Excuse me. You're not qualified to lead others until you lead yourself well. So that would be my first piece of advice is, that little one is going to be looking to you to be that example. And it's all going to start with how you show up for you. And that in turn determines how you're going to show up for him. So, we're talking, putting good fuel into your body, eating well. We're talking being disciplined to some aspect. And I'm not talking, I'm not this quote unquote guru. I'm not like you have to get up at, 4:37 a.m. in order to be successful in life. But you need to have some sort of discipline. You need to have some sort of self-leadership within you that you follow on a day-to-day basis in order to show, that little boy, soon to be young man, on how he needs to treat himself, how he needs to show up in the world, how he needs to show up for his future family.
Yeah, so self-discipline is a spiritual quality. It is listed as one of the fruits of the Spirit. If you walk in step with the Spirit, you will have self-control. You're leading yourself and being self-controlled. First is your proximity to God and how that is expressed in your life, and you think, because I don't have a son, I had a daughter, so I'm stoked that I have. She's brilliant, but how important is that example of self-control and spiritual discipline or the spiritual life to, let's say, a 5-year-old son? What does he care?
Man, it's everything in some aspects. You're that little boy's hero. you're the example of what a man is supposed to be to that little boy. If you're showing up how you're supposed to be. Now, you're that example of a man to that little boy, even if you're not showing up how you're supposed to be. So whatever you're doing, whether it's good or it's bad, he's looking to you. That's his example. That's what he has. That's what he knows. And, to him, dad's his hero. Dad, are you filling out those shoes well? Are you a man that, you can look at yourself in the mirror and say, I'm proud of how I'm leading this little guy, and how, if your son turns out exactly like you when he's your age, are you happy with that? Or are you not happy with that? So that's a question that you need to ask yourself. And obviously, we're not talking about perfection. We're sinners. Like, we're human. We're never going to be perfect. We're modeling that image of Jesus each and every day, like we try to, but it's never going to be perfect. But it's that, are you showing up? Are you improving? Are you trying to do better? Do you even know what that looks like on a day-to-day basis? Are you going to be proud of the man that little boy turns into, because you're the example that he looked at throughout his entire life?
So is that innate? Then it's like whether you're there or not, whether you're a good father or not, whether or not you're disciplined, whether or not you seek the Lord. Is the son still like trying to emulate that? What's the 5-year-old taking from, let's say, your disobedience? Or, is it, what I think what I'm trying to get at is, why does the 5-year-old or 6-year-old care that his dad's off drinking at night, playing a fool?
You could argue that he doesn't, but at the same time, I'm trying to think back when I was a kid. Even when, as children, or like our children, or even us as children, in some way, shape, or form, what you see, especially during those formative years, are going to form you in some way. So even if you're to the point of, maybe our argument is, this 4-year-old kid doesn't care, this 5-year-old kid doesn't care, he doesn't pay attention. Number one, I would call you a liar, because he does care and he does pay attention. Because kids, especially in those formative years, they're sponges. And I can't remember the fact, Jake, and so, somebody's going to fact check me on this and it's going to be wrong, but the amount of information that kids soak in during that time is so much quicker, and so much, it's just piles and piles that they soak in and soak in and soak in, versus us when we get older, because those are those are the kids' formative years. The information that they soak in and that they take in is like 3 times as much as we do as adults. Like, it's insane. If the argument is that kid doesn't care, I would say you're lying, because the kid does care. And whatever he's seeing, whatever he's looking at, even if you think you're hiding it, even if you think you're doing a good job saving face or showing face, eventually that's going to come out. Eventually it's going to come to, this is how my dad was, this is how my dad acted. So that's the stuff that I pay attention to, because it goes back to that age-old adage. The kid's going to do what you do. He's not going to do what you say. There's a big difference there.
Yeah, he doesn't quite understand. He doesn't quite understand how it's affecting him. He doesn't quite understand why it meant, the 5-year-old or the 6-year-old doesn't quite understand why it's affecting him or how it's programming him, but it is. Like, my dad left before I was, like, I think, just before I was born. And he didn't come into my life until I think I was like 6 or 7. And so, like, all those formative years that he could have, but I was programmed in those years, right? Like, hey, I knew I didn't have a dad. I knew that there wasn't a guy around, or at that point, there was probably several guys around, like, considering how my mom was surviving. And so, like, there was some instability in that I didn't know was programming me, or I didn't know was giving me some insecurities or whatever that might be. We compare, let's say, my childhood, where there's turbulence and no father around, or no blood father around, or even an adopted father. So, but compare that with, let's say, somebody who was raised with like your boy. He's being raised with you. You're playing catch with him. You're teaching him life lessons. You're going to guide him along these ways. You are programming him on purpose. And he'll stand a better chance. By the time he's 30, he'll be much further along than I was when I was 30. That's the impact I think a father has in the programming of their son. So I think if we don't think we're doing damage, leaving late at night, coming home, fighting with the wife, the kid's listening, and that's having an impact.
Absolutely.
That's having an impact. So it's, and who knows what that, and we won't know what that impact is for years. A lot of people don't even know they're being programmed we don't even know we're being programmed. We're being programmed by everything. But a kid who has a bad relationship with his dad, maybe some kids out there grew up with fathers that were, told them they were stupid or dumb. They're never going to be worth anything. Now they're super successful because they fought against that to prove to their dad or to prove something was right, and they go, well, I'm not programmed by my dad. He told me I was worthless, but I succeeded at everything. I go, yeah, but when you see your dad, when you go to your dad's house, how do you feel? And they go, well, yeah, I feel like a loser. I feel like I never will accomplish. That's the programming that we're talking about.
Exactly. Yeah. And even if they're successful at that point, there's still, I would guarantee, Jake, that there's an identity issue there. 100%. Their identity is probably 100% tied to their achievements and what they can do and what they deem as success.
Good point. When you talk to your clients, when the guys who come to you for physical fitness help, for coaching, those types of things, how much of that is an identity issue with them?
A lot of it. And a lot of it is the main thing that I see, and this is something that I've struggled with in my own life as well, is, we as men, we're called to lead. And a lot of the time we flip that too much because we're also called to serve, and we serve through our leadership, but we're oftentimes not taught that. Mm-hmm. Oftentimes what we're taught is you have to serve, you have to serve, you have to serve. And that's been what's been beaten into our head, especially in Christian culture throughout many years. If you've spent a lot of years in the church, it's just, oh, you have to serve. It's service, it's service, it's service, it's service. Yeah. And while that's true, like we are called to serve, there's no context around it. So what I see with a lot of men, Christian men in particular, is they've gotten to this place where they have served and served and served and served, and they don't have anything left to give. Yeah. And they don't think that they are worth doing anything about. So they think that their worth only comes from how much they can serve, how much they can serve their wife, how much they can serve their kids, how much they can serve their church, their job, whatever it is. So when it comes to them, and I ask them like, hey, bro, like, how are you taking care of yourself? That blows their mind. I'm like, take care of myself? What? Like, yeah. The man in the mirror that you look at every day, are you taking care of him? I'm like, well, no. Like, I'm taking care of my wife. Like, well, that's good. That's wonderful. It's good. It's godly. I'm taking care of my kids. That's great. That's godly. You should be. What about you? They're like, well, I didn't know that was important. It's like, yeah, man. God created you before he gave you a wife, before he gave you kids. He looked at you and he said, this is my son, whom I love.
Yeah.
Bro, you got to take care of you. And so they get to this place to where they're continuing to give, but they're giving from an empty cup, and they're not filling that cup back up. So it eventually gets to the point to where they're burnout, they're exhausted, they're tired. They have no self-confidence, they have no self-respect because they didn't know that that was important because nobody told them it was. So that's what I see with a lot of my guys. That's kind of the starting point.
Yeah, and then they some of them will descend into trying to salve that wound or salve that stress with vices of one sort or another. They're either, it's either sexual sin or it's alcoholism or it's some kind of idolatry of some sort, right? It's like they don't, oh, I'm not suffering, I'm doing fine. They suffer in secret, and they don't really want to tell anybody about it. And it's like, if I tell somebody about it, then I'm not really a man. And it's like, how do you get somebody out of that? Somebody comes to you and he goes, man, I'm not really taking care of myself. I'm a father. I'm a husband. I'm a laborer. I'm a businessman, whatever. I mean, he's got a list of identity statements, but those aren't so much identities as they are roles that he's tying into identities. And he's suffering silently on the weekends, smoking a bunch of weed and trying to make himself feel better. How do you start unraveling that tangle?
Yeah. So the first thing is just words, just like literally looking him in the eyes, like you and I are doing right now. It's like, hey, bro, you matter. God made you before he gave you a wife and kids. He made you, and he decided the world needed one of you. And a lot of guys
the way you said that right now, though, no lie, the way you said that right now almost made me cry.
Right? because guys don't hear that,
Yeah.
man. Like 9 times out of 10. I mean,
I
I'm
matter.
getting chills. Yeah, I'm getting chills as I talk about it.
Yeah.
I had a mentor in my life, Jake, several years ago, and that was that was one of the first things he said to me, and it just resonated. He was like, "Hey, man, you matter," and I was like, "What?" He's like, "Yeah, you're important. Like God made one of you and decided that the world needed you."
Mm-hmm.
And I had an awesome childhood. My dad's incredible. My dad's my hero to this day.
Mm-hmm.
So even in those situations, like there's still, we've been so mashed down by culture, and even Christian culture, and that's what hurts me so much is like 9 times out of 10, and I'm not bad mouthing church. I think church is wonderful. I think you need to go to church. So don't hear what I'm not saying, but there's just not a lot of emphasis on taking care of men, even in the church, because they're like, guys, do better. Like that's their version of speaking to men. It's like, guys, do better.
Yeah.
And I don't know about you, Jake, but I beat myself up plenty enough. I don't need anybody else doing it.
No.
Now there are men that react better to that. But from what I've seen in my experience, a lot of guys are already so hard on themselves because they always just think I need to do better, that they don't give themselves grace. They don't look themselves in the eye and say, "Hey bro, I love you. You did good today." And it's like, why do we not do that? That's important.
Mm-hmm.
Like you are important, even out of your role as a father, out of your role as a husband. Those are very good, godly things, and you should pursue them, period.
Yeah.
And also, you're important.
Yeah.
The way that you feel matters. The way that you show up matters. What you have, your dreams, your ambitions, all of that stuff matters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Our connection to God as men is ultimately the root and anchor of our identity. And if that suffers, then everything else is going to suffer.
Absolutely.
Then we're going to get tied up in this idea that my identity is the role of father. And yeah, maybe I'm not a great father, so therefore I'm not a great person. Or, if my identity is as a husband and I'm not a great husband, then I'm like, okay, then I'm not a great person. And then you take them back and you go, no, man, that's not true. God made you to matter. You matter. Right? That's powerful, dude, because that's really where we need to start thinking of ourselves in connection with who God is and how he made us. And then these things that are our roles in our lives, we get better at. And you're right, dude. Like if you get a church where the pastor, and God bless him, man, I have a heart for pastors. I know that that is a rough job, dude. Like that's a job. I have my pastor coming on here at a little later this morning, and we're going to talk about leadership and different things going on for young guys coming out of seminary and going into pastoral ministry. And one of the things that I have found working with pastors in the past is some of them they're not great leaders. And maybe maybe they were in ministry when they were in junior high and then high school. And then as soon as they left high school, they went into Bible college and then seminary. And now they're leading churches with absolutely no real world experience. And the only thing they know to tell us is that we're messed up sinners that are never going to be worth anything until we get to heaven. And then when their men in their congregations hear this week after week after week, and then end up cheating on their wives, everybody is shocked. Like, oh my gosh, did you hear about Jim? Jim totally was like, hitting the secretary as like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. He was so involved. You're like, yeah, but dude, you tell him every week that he's worthless. You're nothing but a wretched sinner. What do you expect wretched sinners to do, man? You got to reorient the identity to who God says that we are, not who we were before Christ.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's pivotal. I think you're right. In a lot of churches, it's like that. Come do, and then like work hard and be better, be better. And there's a lot of churches that are getting this right now. Like, there's a lot of pastors out there now that are really focused. If you look at churches that are predominantly young men that are that love the Lord, who are out there just absolutely slaying it, it's because they're putting their relationship with God first. And because they have an example in the pastor that is like, hey, look at a church that's full of women and there's very few men, and I'll show you a church that's in trouble.
Absolutely. You're 100% right.
Yeah. So it's like, so when you're working with them on their identity, kind of trying, maybe on some level, separating the role from identity and reorienting themselves to the Lord, or how are you doing that? Like, are you like recalibrating them to who God sees them as, or how's your work with them going?
Yeah. So a lot of it is using the words and the statements, and then just allowing space for that,
Mm-hmm.
allowing space for them to come and say, hey, like, I'm not doing well with this. And then part of it, Jake, is just the process of going through the health and nutrition, learning how to lift weights, learning how to get in the gym, learning how to take that time. Because most guys, when they go to the gym, if that's not an integral part of their life, they feel like they're robbing time from their family, and they
Mm-hmm.
don't go to the gym because they're like, I already work 8 hours a day.
Yep.
I only get a couple hours with my family in the evening. Like, I can't go to the gym. Like, that's robbing time from them. So,
Mm.
then we go back into the reframe of, okay, but now you're taking care of yourself, which means you're actually going to show up as the man that they need. You're actually going to show up as the best version of yourself, which means you're going to lead your wife better, which means you're going to lead your kids better, which means you're going to show up with more energy and more self-confidence because you're proud of yourself for doing the thing that you said you were going to do. So a lot of it is just working through the process. Like, it's like, hey, this guy is invested in me as his coach. So there's money on the line. So he's like, all right, I've done this. Now I have to follow through with it. Now he has to go and he has to work out, 3, 4, 5 days a week, whatever we decide to do. And he has to work through that process. So he has to, quote unquote, take time away from his family, go work on himself, and then come home. And then he starts, after a few weeks, he's seeing the benefits. He's like, hey, man, I feel great. My energy is so much better. He's like, I actually feel good about myself. And it's like, cool. That's because you told yourself you were going to work out and you've consistently done it for 2 weeks or 3 weeks or whatever it's been.
Yeah.
So he's building that self-confidence back up, which means when he is with his wife and kids, he's showing up as a version of himself that is 10 times better than the man before, the man that thought he couldn't go to the gym because he was robbing time away from his wife and kids.
Right.
When even that time that he was spending with them was probably lazy because he was exhausted and worn out, didn't have any energy.
Yeah.
So he might have said he was spending time with his wife and kids, when in reality he was coming home and just chilling out on the couch.
Yeah. Now, are you doing like weight training with them, or you have them on different programs?
Yeah, so it's all different, but a lot of the stuff that I do is focused on strength training, is focused on weight training, because that oftentimes, especially if you're physically able, and there's different guys that we have to start in different stages depending on where they are at. But, going in there and lifting weight awakens a bit of a primal instinct in a man that's good for him, that we've kind of gotten away from in our comfort centered society.
Yeah, well, I think the clinical data is on your side too with weight training. I think there's probably more endorphins, more epidrenalin, more. It's a better chemical recipe for when you press yourself and lift heavy, as opposed to, let's say, endurance sports. It's a different recipe. There's something primal,
Absolutely.
like you said. I think it ignites something primal and it is different for everybody, right? Some guys aren't going to lay down on a bench and push 200 pounds or 300 pounds. Some guys are going to throw up, 40-pound dumbbells, and that's going to be heavy for them at first.
That's fine. That's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
And that's we look at men from like old times, men from Bible times, and their job was to protect their families. It was to protect their land. It was to go and take more land.
Mm-hmm.
Like, these guys are warriors.
Yeah. Yeah. For
And
sure.
yeah,
Savages.
and savages, exactly. And now what is our job? Our job is to sit in front of a computer and do work for 8 hours a day.
Yeah. Hey.
Like, we're missing a piece there. And
Hey, I
that
work
weight
out.
training
Look, I
is-
got the whole gym and everything.
Exactly. But that, we have to force ourselves to do those things that can be physically hard and physically difficult, because not only does it awaken that primal instinct, like that protector, that warrior within us, but it also helps shape our mental capacity. So you go in there and you lift weights, and once you start to get good at it, you start to push yourself and you think, I can't lift this weight. Well, then you do it. Well, guess what? You just reprogram something in your mind that says, I can do hard things.
Yep.
So then that overflows into every other aspect of your life, whether it be business or finances or family, whatever it is. Now you know within yourself that you can do something hard.
Yep. Yeah, and then you stay consistent at it. And you may not see the results right away, but you will notice your wife touching your arm more, or she doesn't mean to, but a lot of people are, a lot of people aren't used to touching another human being and feeling some kind of rock hard like muscles. They're just like, hey, that's kind of cool.
Hmm.
Once your wife sees that, it's it's a cycle. She feels that, and then she wants to exercise, and then and then the cycle starts. It's like a reoccurring circuit, just keeps feeding itself. Becomes more attracted to you. You're having more sex. You're having more fun.
It's almost like physical attraction matters.
What?
What?
No way. Physical attraction matter. You're like, oh yeah, man. My wife hasn't, my wife hasn't shown me any attention for years or months or years, and you're like, yeah, dude. No wonder. It's like you've given up completely on life. You don't have any goals. You're not setting anything in the future. The man she fell in love with and she's attracted to was a man who had like purpose.
Hmm.
You've completely abandoned your purpose. You stopped, achieving stuff, and that's not sexy. That's not sexy, no matter the gender, dude. Like you get, women who have no goals, no purpose, no care for their bodies. You get men who have no goals, purpose, or care for their bodies. That's not attractive.
No. And that's what one of the more hard-nosed things that I stand by is like, guys complaining like, well, we're not having sex anymore. We're not doing this. My wife doesn't show me any attention. And I'm like, have you looked at yourself in the mirror, bro?
Yeah, dude.
Like, would you want to do that?
Right. Look at you. Like, you don't think she has
And that's
standards?
yeah, that's not to be, condemning, but it's just like, hey guys, wake up and take some bleepity bleep responsibility.
Yeah. Well, and it goes beyond the physicalness of it, right? Because when you have a guy who's lifting heavy, who's disciplined and hitting it every day or 4 or 5 days a week or whatever regimen you have on, when he's on it for a month, 6 weeks, 2 months, and he's going for it, it's not just the physical aspect of it. It's how he shines through his eyes and his presence in the home. Those types of disciplines and punishment that you put your body through and those accomplishments change you in ways that are intangible.
Absolutely. Yeah, you start to show up with that self-confidence, with that self-respect,
Mhm.
with all of those things that you're building because you're being consistent and because you're doing something hard.
Yeah. You should compare a guy who spends time in the weight room pushing himself, like really pushing himself, to a guy who sits down at a big dinner table and just shovels biscuits and gravy through his face. There's no comparison.
No.
There's one guy who you want on your team, and there's another guy who, if he were on your team, would probably die of a heart attack.
Yeah, and it comes back to kind of the like, hey, who would you want to follow? Because as men, we're called to lead. So, you look like your example that you just had, Jake. You look at those two guys. Who are you going to follow? Okay, like that's easy. There's
Right.
literally like no question in your mind. So
Yeah.
now take that and apply it to your wife and your kids.
Right.
Who are they going to follow? Are they going to follow this guy that can't stop shoveling food into his mouth? Are they going to follow the guy that is living with intention and purpose and taking care of himself?
Yep. And you just look at the results you're getting, right? If your family's not following you, or if they're disconnected, or if they're distant from you, it's not them. We're the leaders of the home. It's us. And if we change us, then we can change the trajectory of our family. We can build something that's meaningful.
Yep,
What are
absolutely.
what are some lies that they're believing right now?
That who's believing in
That
particular?
men generally, Christian men.
I think the one big one is that they don't matter.
Mm.
That's a really big one. I think the other one is one that I run into kind of often with my line of work is if my spiritual is good enough, my physical doesn't matter.
Oh yeah, I've run into
Uh,
that too. Yeah.
guys get so caught up in the, well, if I read my Bible X amount of minutes per day or hours per day, and if I go to church every Sunday and if I pray this much every day, like I can be fat and sloppy, and it's that part doesn't matter because they they use it as an excuse. Number one, because the church doesn't talk about it.
Yeah.
So like the church doesn't talk about how important it is to steward your body well for the most part. And, this is the topic that we're discussing, but I'm not saying like in any way, shape, or form that your physical fitness is more important than your relationship with Christ.
Totally
So
right.
guys, don't hear what I'm not saying.
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter is God gave you this body to take care of. So it's not a either or, it's a both and. Your relationship with Christ is the most important thing in your life, hands down, period, full stop.
Yep.
And also take care of the body that he gave you because it is on loan from him to you for now. He gifted it to you. So when you give it back to him, because you're going to, is he going to be happy with it? Are you going to be happy with what you're presenting to him? Or are you going to say, ooh, I don't think I want to give this back. I'm not proud of this.
Yeah. And he does care about the body. Like he is for the body. I forget where he mentions that I always want to say it's in Corinthians somewhere because Corinthians is such, there's 2 books and they're long chapters, but it's like everything's in Corinthians. Isn't everything in Corinthians? But I know he's he is for the body. It is a stewardship. And it's interesting because some of those guys who are saying, well, I do all these, I pray, I read, I go to service, I'm doing these things. I don't need to work out. I mean, some of those doughy, soft guys are being led spiritually by doughy, soft pastors. Some of these pastors haven't seen a weight room in decades, man. Like I see some pastors that are like, they could use a push-up or two. Like, you don't even need weights, dude. Like it's,
body weight stuff, jogging, running, walking, basketball. Like it doesn't matter. It's not a one size fits all. Now we go back to the primal thing of lifting weights. And I do think that is important for men in particular, but if you can't get to the gym, if you literally do not have time, like I can have you doing a body weight workout in 10 or 15 minutes that will have you just gassed.
Yeah. Well, and if you haven't worked out for a long time, a push-up is resistant. I mean, it is
absolutely
weight training. Like if you can't do 10
100%.
push-ups, if you can't do 10 push-ups, then you don't really need a weight bench. You just need to do some push-ups.
You just got to start, and you got to start somewhere. And that's the important piece. It's not this is better than this or blah, 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 blah. Like you need to start somewhere.
Yeah. Have you seen any distinct kind of differences between, let's say, the guys who have a pretty straightforward, healthy diet, let's say meat, vegetables, fruits, whatever it is that you would determine to be a good diet for them, and let's say the guys who are just chowing Twinkies all the time?
Like a difference, how do you mean? Physically or mentally or both?
Emotionally, physically?
Yeah, I mean, there's a huge difference there. I'm trying to think of the quote, but your gut is basically your second brain. So if you're feeding your gut junk, then you're actually literally, scientifically, mentally are going to be more unstable. So if you're feeding your gut junk, your brain is going to exude junk as well. So what you eat not only directly affects you physically, but it actually affects you mentally as well. So yeah, there's a huge difference in guys that are eating a ton of processed foods versus guys that are eating a whole food diet. Like if you're eating a whole food diet, you're already way ahead of everyone else, mentally and physically.
Yeah. I think it was Gary Brecka talks a lot about nutrition and methylation, things like that. And I think he was the one that says the closer to the earth you can get to your food without anything in between, the better.
Yeah, the way that I usually frame that is like, hey, if you can eat it how God made it, then you're in good shape.
Eat it how God made it. Yeah. Or eat the thing that, like, in the Garden of Eden, you had, the food that grew from the dirt that we were made of. I mean, it all makes really sense. It makes sense. Like if we're made from the dirt, then we should eat things that came from the dirt. And at very furthest, eat the thing that ate the thing that came from the dirt. Right?
Exactly.
Like
exactly.
And then, but if you take that grain out of the ground, process it through a bunch of solvents, press it into a chip, and throw a bunch of other solvents and chemicals onto it, you're probably going to have some disconnect in your body somewhere. And the energy that goes towards adapting to those chemicals is all energy that could be used for strong, healthy, emotional living.
Absolutely. Yeah. Think of, You think of what you could be doing if your body didn't have to work so hard to digest stuff that it was never intended to.
Oh, that's a good way to put it. Yeah, because it seems like there's a lot of friction involved that doesn't need to be there. Putting a little bit of sand in your, if you get a little bit of sand in your oil change, like, it may not completely destroy your engine, but it's friction that just doesn't need to be there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the mental fog, the clarity, the understanding of what's going on around you. I would challenge guys, especially if processed things is something that you're eating a lot of now. I would take 1 week and eat whole foods as much as you possibly can, and I would guarantee that mentally you feel better, physically you feel better. Like it's going to be a huge difference, and eventually it gets to the point like once you make those things a habit, it gets to the point like you don't want to eat that processed stuff. And I'm not saying that you can't ever have a bag of chips. Like
Yeah.
that's not what I'm saying either. But if you make up, the majority of the food that you ingest is good whole food, you're going to feel so much better that you're not going to want to go back.
Do you make plans like that custom for your clients?
I do. Yep. Yeah. So we do the nutrition piece and the lifting piece as well. But yeah,
This is kind of probably based on what their goals are and what they're hoping
it
to
is.
achieve, right? Yeah.
Yep. It's based on where their goals are. It's based on where they are, mentally, because, some guys are, if you're eating Cinnamon Toast Crunch for breakfast and 2 Twinkies for lunch and, a Big Mac for supper, that's a really big shift going there to eating, 80, 90% whole foods. So in that instance, we're going to do a little bit at a time. We're going to adjust
Okay.
here and there. And because the biggest thing with this, Jake, is I want my clients, we're going to build sustainable habits. I
Mm.
don't want to just pull a bunch of weight off of you in a short amount of time. And then, as soon as we stop working together, it goes right back on. My idea of a successful client is we've built these habits and I've taught them how to do this on their own so that then they can go forth and they can teach their family how to do it. They can do it with their kids. They can do it with their wives. They can do it with those around them. So my idea is like, hey, let's do this slowly. Let's build these sustainable habits so that not only does this weight stay off for good, but the mindset shift is we're no longer dieting, we're eating and we're training. And we're doing that because it's important to us, because it's important to our families.
Yeah.
So it's a mindset shift. That's what we're working on versus like, yeah, man, like you can get on ChatGPT, you can get on Google and search how to lose weight and you'll lose weight.
Yeah.
But it's can you keep it off? Did you build the habits? Did you do it sustainably so that it wasn't 8 weeks of pure hell eating cabbage and boiled chicken? And now that's so terrible that you're never going to do that again. So the weight's just going to come right back on. You didn't learn
Yeah. And
anything
that,
in
in
the
that
process.
mindset transition, you're also managing the detox from
Um,
the chemicals, or is there a dependency on those types of processed foods?
I haven't quite ran into a situation that dire yet. Now there is a piece to it, and it's more of the mental shift that I would say versus the detox. And maybe there's some detoxing there as well. But let's take the guy for instance that's doing Cinnamon Toast Crunch for breakfast, Twinkies for lunch, and a hamburger for supper.
Mm.
The first shift that we're going to make is like, all right, we're doing Cinnamon Toast Crunch, so it's got to be something quick. It's got to be something relatively healthy. So we're probably going to shift to like the Quaker oatmeal packets. Are those great for you? No. Are they better for you than Cinnamon Toast Crunch? A little bit.
A little
Okay,
bit.
so that's what we're gonna do first.
Still a lot of
And then
sugar. Yeah.
yeah, and then we may shift over to once that's more of a habit, then we're gonna shift over to more of like a oats or like a eggs or like something like that. So we just need to do it in steps, And if I've got a guy that's drinking 8 sodas a day, like this is literally what he drinks. He doesn't drink
Yeah.
any water. So be like, hey, bro, we're gonna cut this back to you can have 2 a day. Like we're gonna start there. You can have 2 a day. You have to drink water the rest of the time instead of just going, hey, bro, kick all that out. Now you're gonna drink water.
Oh yeah.
Or it might
Yeah.
be we switch to like a sparkling water or a diet soda first, and then we go to a sparkling water. Like it's all about these little steps and little shifts that you can make that don't make it so overwhelming that your clients just go, oh, there's no way I can do this.
Right. Yeah, I have a buddy that's besides being a really good guitar player, he's a mountain biker, physical fit, and he's just a mechanic. I mean, the guy is just he's a phenom. But you get him out in the real world before he hit, I think it's probably before he hit 40, and he was eating ice cream every day, 3 liters of soda, working out. I'm like, because he's a physical specimen, and so it didn't really affect him that much before, like in his early years, and the numbers that came back, Chris, I'm just hey Chris, shout out to Chris, you know who you are. He had his numbers came back, and we kind of all sat around going, dude, how are you even still alive, dude? Like, these numbers are nuts.
That's insane.
Yeah. And so his thing was kind of because he was extreme about it. I mean, his thing was more of a detox, I think. It was like, okay, how do you decide somebody goes cold turkey versus making a transition? Is that a personality thing, or is that just whatever?
Maybe to a degree, but a lot of it is just like, once we kind of the process is, we get on a call together like this and we talk through some stuff. And if we decide that, we're a good fit and we're going to move forward, we schedule another call. And that second call is where we really get deep into like, what are you doing day to day? And so I have a client coming to mind right now, and one of the questions that I ask is like, what do you drink throughout the day? And he's like, I think he said 1 bottle of water. I was like, okay. So
a big bottle?
Just one.
But,
it's like, all right,
but like a bottle.
I mean, anyway, but not enough. It wasn't
Like a
enough.
little
So
bottle.
we started with him. It's like, all right, we're going to start with 64 ounces a day. This is what I want you to start with.
Was that half a gallon?
Yeah. And then we'll move it up from there. But yeah, it's just all about finding out where they are and talking to them, and, the process of, keeping that line of conversation open as we're working together. What I tell my clients is like, I will help you literally in any way, shape, or form that I can, but I can't if you're quiet. If you don't ask questions, if you don't come to me and say, hey, I'm struggling with this, or I'm not doing well in this area, like if you don't come to me with that stuff, I can't help you with it.
Yeah. Ultimately you're part of an advanced society when you're trying to coach people and train people to do basic survival skills. Eat good food, take care of yourself. When you're really part of something special in America, when you're trying to wean people off of Twinkies and Cinnamon Toast Crunch. This podcast is not sponsored by Hostess, by the way, just for full disclosure. If you enjoy the occasional bowl of Cinnamon Toast Crunch, go for it. But
hey, I'll be the first to tell you. I mean, Cinnamon Toast Crunch is where it's at.
I figured there was a reason it was your example.
I gave it away.
How can guys get a hold of you as they're seeking help?
Yeah, so right now social media is the main form of communication. So on Instagram at the Sean McManus, and on TikTok at the Sean McManus, and then on Facebook at Sean McManus, and I'm on X too. I think it's the Sean McManus as well.
Very nice.
Facebook and Instagram are probably the two main ones.
We'll put all those links, and if you have a website, we'll put those links in the show notes, and send everybody your way. Until then, Sean, man, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I appreciate it.
Jake, it's been an honor.
If you enjoyed this show, make sure to subscribe and leave a review. For more information about Jake, log on to jakegiffin.com and find him on all social media platforms. Until next time, peace and power be yours.